look at the National Assembly, for instance. You see, you've seen the activities of APC people all over the country, going to Port Harcourt, moving all over the country. Have you seen any APC man, legislator in Abuja, come out to say that this money that are giving us is too much?
Or too small?
Or too small. It's a group thing so now.
You expect them? You expect them to say that?
No. If I go there, that's what I will do. When they satisfy a group, the group keeps quiet. Let them read section 70 of the Constitution. It says that any monies to be spent, given to these people, must be on the recommendations of the revenue, allocation and fiscal commission.
Are they violating that?
When was the last time that commission made recommendations to the House?
Is it about the basic salaries or about
every monies, everything going to the National Assembly must be as a result of the recommendations of that commission? Is that being practiced? And you see the risk they are taking. Maybe they've not been properly advised that if they have been having income, constituency allowances, wardrobe allowances, sleeping and waking up allowances, the fact remains that these monies are recoverable. If these monies did not go through that channel, even if it's 40 years after they leave Abuja, those funds are recoverable.
Through which constitution? The same one you say is...
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The position of the law is clear. That is why, if we are practicing constitutional democracy, we must be prepared to embrace all the dynamics of the constitution. What we do is selective applications, selective amnesia. That's why you see nobody has come out to tell you this is how much we are receiving.
So do you think...
It is a key element. Even everybody in the system should know how much our legislators are earning. So it's not an internal affair of the National Assembly.
Do you think that that's selectiveness? Because one of the things that you seem to be accusing this constitution of is the selective nature in which we practice it.
Yes.
It's not because the provisions are not there. Do you think that selectiveness will change if we have what a lot of people are terming a people's constitution?
You see, the point is that nobody is advocating for this kind of National Assembly platform. We want part-time legislators, even in Lagos House of Assembly. These things can be done on part-time. There is no
Crusade for Justice wants part-time.
At all levels. There is absolutely no need to gather all these people in Abuja with the kind of course, you've seen some presentations that these people are bleeding the nation. And there's not been any concrete reaction, because if you say that is not true. Even the CBN governor said that at a point. If that is not true, let them give us a breakdown of what is there. And mind you, the presumption that when you're going to the National Assembly is a platform for decent people. A member of that National Assembly, you remember, said that there were charlatans who were involved in some cases that he saw in the National Assembly. What happened? If they are disputing that, what I expected David Mark to do is that this kind of Sun Girl program, let them be publishing the faces of National Assembly men. If you have anything to say against them, send it to this place.
Okay, I mean, what does the Constitution prescribe? What kinds of government? Isn't it a federal system? Because those who think that there's nothing wrong with it say, listen, it says a federal system, but are we practicing what it says we should? Because if we are, we may not even be complaining about the inequities or inequalities that are evident now.
Yes, of course, you know that even with all the imperfections in the system, if you still have very decent people, men of culture and fairness in strategic positions, the dissent might be very minimal. You remember when Shagari was in government, there was nothing like Boko Haram. The Niger Delta issue wasn't there. Everything, all these dimensions were pegged on the personality of the president. If you have a president that is humane, it is very, very difficult for you to be vicious in whatever you're saying. And that is what the present leadership is trying to bring it to bear on the political system. That if there's an election, the election must be free and fair. And we've seen that happen in so many jurisdictions. So what we want to do is that we want to x-ray this platform, give this platform support. If this platform fails, then we now know that it starts with a vicious circle, and then we now have
this advisory committee who are coming up with their recommendations.
That's right. If this one now fails, we now know that it's absolutely traditional for such things to fail, because then we won't have any reason not to oppose such things when they come up again. But at this critical element, people of decent mind should come together and give it the support, and they insist that whatever comes out of this should go to the people for a referendum.
Not the National Assembly.
Not the National Assembly.
So you also talked about how development is about naira and kobo.
Of course.
And you know, it was saying that, you know, all of your discussions, you've touched very specifically on money. You're talking about the National Assembly, you're talking about wasteful spending, you talked about also the states in terms of how they have many local governments and how we have too many bureaucracies across the states. Now, how do you think that we'll be able to address this talk of money within the national conference without causing trouble?
You see, the problem is that people are always afraid of change, because change, of course, is a big challenge to withstand change. And you see, no nation has developed with an avalanche of men of discordant tunes. You need a very, very visionary and forensic-minded team that will be there, that will be propelling the nation. And that is what we want to see here. You see, and at times it might be necessary for you to ignore some of the reactions from some of these people, generation of politicians that have lived all their lives on the resources of this country. Because I think that politics is a platform for service. It is not a place, when you see a gathering of individuals that have consistently failed in their respective endeavors and are now claiming to be full-time politicians, I mean, I'm usually taken aback, because I believe that politics is all about service. And we have seen snippets of that in this state, in some other states.
All right, well, we'll come to that quickly, but let me bring in this one. He's watching, and Enyi says to ask you, please find out, how does 3% of budget provision to the National Assembly mean that the National Assembly is bleeding Nigeria? That's what he says to ask you.
Well, I think you should also bring out the figures, not just talking about 3%, because what they allocate to the National Assembly is far and above that. That is number one. And number two is that that community is too small even to get 0.1% of that allocation. That community is too large. And the figure he gave us here, maybe he has not been following the trend in the industry.
So in the meantime, you also think that we should seize the moment that this advisory committee provides?
Oh, there is no better moment than now.
You're a constitutional lawyer. Don't you see a problem? Don't you see a legal problem for making this into a constitution rather than for it to go to the National Assembly?
No, you see, the process will be taking it for a referendum and then bringing it to the National Assembly. It will, of course, go. What we want to do is to see the people make an input and say this is what they want, and that we don't want it. But we want all shares of opinion to be reflected. Like
so eventually, you're still in a situation where after it's gone to referendum, it still goes back to the National Assembly.
Of course, they have to amend the
role
constitution.
for them.
They have to amend the constitution. It is only when we get to the National Assembly and then there are resistance as to bringing in these, you know, innovations into the present constitution. Then, of course, we know that we have a big challenge. But I think first and foremost, it must go to the people. Constitutional democracy and federal style of governance talks about political autonomy, and we believe that whatever we are doing now must evolve from the people first before we can now translate it to any other platform.
All right, Mr. Richard Nwankwo, lawyer and of the Crusade for Justice, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
We'll return after this break. Join us again.